Who the judge against Klepto Kev?
Yep. No stealing this time. You're going to end up in jail.
All right,
Okay,
your own time, sir.
Action.
All right, we're off.
Coming for you. Let go.
See if I can steal another one.
Hey. You've fallen into my trap. Once I figure out what it is. Getting brave.
Mm. Otherwise, it's a waste of time, right?
Yeah. Let's see. King or bishop? No,
Ooh, fancy.
yeah.
Long castle. Mm.
Probably a bit more carefully. Let's see.
Like a fool.
No, I'm looking pretty stupid at the moment. Let's see. Take, check, move, check. Yeah, so yeah. Take. Check. Alright. Can I get it? Yeah, there's a lot of pieces there. Let's see. Yeah, I think that worked. Yeah, if I move, take, check. Take, we have some other way of defending against those. Desperate times, man. Desperate times. Yeah, I think you got me, man. Let's play it out. Let's see. So if I do nothing, okay, screw it. Right, let's play it through. Like, there's a better way to do it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, I got
Klepto Kev steals another one.
Yep, that's what I get for playing fun deal.
And I was able to sacrifice the Rook.
Yes,
I won't steal Levy's thing in case he sues me. But
you're a
yeah.
Scotsman, you have to say it right.
Oh, yeah.
You sacrificed that. No, that was a nice one. Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Tom. Well, nice game between Klepto Kev and Judge Joe. And I know Joe was looking for revenge because Klepto Kev's been stealing some games from him. But fortunately, this game didn't go his way. And yeah, Kevin found a nice Rook sacrifice in the end. But I want to start looking at this game from about move 7 here. So we reached this position, which is actually all book moves. And this is the English opening, and it's the Anglo-Indian defense. And you get this like a Queen's Indian kind of a setup with this bishop on b7, having a nice, diagonal control of this diagonal. And so here, from this point on, we get the move knight c6. And I think this was kind of the first inaccuracy in the game. And the reason knight c6 is an accuracy because it kind of blocks this bishop. When the knight was back here on b8, this bishop and this knight both control this e4 square. And so, there was no way or no easy way for white to push e4 right away. But when you play knight c6, now you can play e4, and also there are some d5 possibilities right away. So what would have been a better move here? Well, the top move in the engine is to move the knight to e4, put in some pressure on this knight, and if you take this knight, then bishop takes. And the point is this bishop is going to maintain control of this diagonal, and if this white knight ever moves, then we just exchange bishops, and black should be doing fine. And so a better move then would be this knight e4. Now there are other moves here in this position. Another one, you could just castle, right, is another move. And then d5 or d6 is another possibility. So d6 move here is good because it controls, you get control of all these central squares, and it allows, of course, the knight to jump here and not block the bishop, so you would control or maintain the control of the e4 square. But let's see what happened in the game. So we got knight c6, and here Kevin didn't push in the center right away. He went for bishop to g5, pinning the knight. I think maybe then he was trying to go for this. And here Joe pushes the bishop up right away. It's a good move. And then queen recaptures, which is also good. Now, E3 by Kevin. And here, the computer was, again, looking at some knight b5 moves because here, if you go knight b5, you're already putting a lot of pressure on this position. And also, well, I mean, you could go back with the queen, but that's not necessarily great. Or you could, have to play something like rook c8, which is probably the best move. You could also just ignore that and just castle. So those are kind of the top moves. But yeah, with white, you'd want to push or put some pressure on the black position right away with the black king not being castled yet. The other move here is actually just to push d5. Here, if you go d5, and for example, if the knight goes here, you don't even have to worry about this c4 square. You can just play rook over. And black can't really take this pawn because if he does, then we jump there, and then we have a lot of pressure. White's got a lot of pressure all of a sudden on the c7 pawn. So that would be good for white. So that's not doable. But let's go back to the game. So we get e3. In this position, Joe castles queenside, and the engine says this is a mistake. The best move here was to actually castle kingside because here the king is going to be a lot safer when it's opposed to the other king, because white can't just generate an attack without exposing his own king. Whereas when you go the opposite way, then now we get this, of course, pawn storms on opposite sides. And if you look at this position carefully, you'll see that white's already got the C and D pawns are on the 4th rank, and it's going to be fairly easy to start rushing or start pushing these pawns. It just feels like white is going to be quicker here, and so I think that's really the issue. Whereas black, the queen's blocking the F pawn, and these the H and G pawns are going to have to advance slowly, and then it's not clear how they're going to generate a lot of counterplay quickly on this side of the board. So I would say this is the reason that it was probably a safer choice. However, it will make for a fun game when we see this opposite side castling. But let's see what happens. So we get rook c1. Nice move by Kevin, basically x-raying this king. And if this position ever opens up, the rook's already positioned on a great file. Now we get the move d5 from black, and here the computer didn't really like this because this helps actually white to open up the path, the file to the king. And so a better move for black is just to get out of that x-ray, just to move the king over, or alternatively you can also just go h5, start marching your own pawns, or queen e7 also makes some sense, getting some room for this pawn to run and providing additional defense over there. But in the game, we get the move d5, and Kevin pushes the pawn to c5, and then we get h5. Okay, so here Kevin correctly takes the pawn, and after recapture, the engine already wants to go on this move here and start attacking with queen a4 and knight b5, and then of course the rook is on this file. Looks pretty dangerous. However, I think Kevin plays a really nice move here. He plays the move h4, and this is a good move because it really stops black from advancing his pawns. The h pawn is now stuck, and really g5 is not possible because both the pawn and the knight control that square pretty well. And so it's a good idea to take time out and stop your opponent's counterplay if you can before you proceed with your own plan. So after this, we get bishop a6 attacking this rook on f1. And here, you don't even have to move the rook. Now, Kevin moved, which I think is fine. Just move the rook out of the way and just go on. But yeah, you could just go for this queen a4. The reason is you're hitting this bishop and the knight. And the black square, if you get greedy and start taking stuff, well, I'm going to take you. And then if you go back, for example, to here, then already this is game over, because you can see the pressure, and this queen really can't go back to defend. And so this was just basically made in two. So the bishop can't go back. Well, the bishop also doesn't have time to take this bishop because same thing happens. You're basically there. If you take with the rook, you get mated. If you go here with the queen, which is the only move really to stop checkmate, well, you might think this is also a move, right? But actually it's just queen a8 ends the game right away. And then if the best move is to go queen e7, then you just take, and after king to b8, you know, it's pretty much over. King a8, and here after knight c6, yeah, it's made in two, and it's unstoppable. So white gets this great attack. So let's go back. Kevin moved the rook, which there's nothing wrong with that. And then Joe plays queen f5. And here, Kevin finally goes for this queen a4, hitting the bishop and the knight. The bishop goes back to b7, protecting the knight. And Kevin jumps with the knight on to b5. Great move, putting pressure. The rook and the knight exerting a lot of pressure. There's also different jumps with the knight, and just looks very difficult already for black to defend. Now Joe goes king to b8, and I think this was the final kind of a mistake, and I understand why he did it. He wants to get out of this x-ray on the c file from the rook, and also control the square with his knight and the king, so there's no basically queen or knight can't access that square. So that's very understandable. Also, there might be some knight jumps, right? Potential forks. So he wants to avoid all those shenanigans. But Kevin finds this great rook sack here, removing the defense of that square. And unfortunately for black, this rook cannot be recaptured because of white delivering check, king moving over, and then queen delivering checkmate on c7, which is what happened in the game. And so my question to you is, if the bishop can't take the rook, well, what should black do? So pause the video and think about it. The best move for black here is actually to play the move rook d7. Unfortunately, after queen a7 check, king c8, you can already take here on b6 with a queen, because this pawn is pinned. Now, if you go and take the rook, then knight a7, king d8, and knight times c6 basically ends the game after king e8, queen, rook d8, and queen e8. So that is not possible to do. So if you can't take that rook, that's pretty bad. You have to run with the king. And here, queen can take the bishop, or the rook can take this pawn. And there's this nasty discovery on the king. And, you know, if you take back with the rook, then it's just, you know, it's over. And then if you, you know, move your king again, let's say, well, then you can just take the rook. And after a king, you take the bishop. Anyway, the position is completely lost for black, with no hopes of surviving this. So let's go back to here. So even with the best defense, unfortunately, there was just nothing for white to do here. But we get bishop takes and queen checks and checkmate on c7. So nice game by Kevin. Yeah, he capitalized on his chances and finished the game nicely. I know Joe's looking to get back at him soon, so we'll see what happens in their next game. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.